Hello, everyone. The story regarding the Battle of Pokrovsk continues to dominate the news about the war in Ukraine. And as I mentioned before, the situation is dire, although not hopeless. Ukraine's President Zelensky had stated that the defense of Pokrovsk is a high priority and deployed elite special forces to support the regular troops. So here's where I encourage everybody to just chill and not panic and stay on top of the news. This is a very volatile wartime situation, as to be expected. As I mentioned before, Russians have been trying to take Pokrovsk for a very long time and have wasted a lot of lives there. Also, while it is true that the situation there is extremely complicated and extremely dangerous, let's not forget we had a frontline break earlier this year in August. And yes, it is true that it took almost 3 months to close that hole, but it was closed. The breakthrough was eliminated. So, it is essential to basically rely on respectable, verified, vetted news sources, which is not Russian news sources. Remember, Russian media had already reported Pokrovsk as captured. That is not true. That is a lie. They're trying to get people of Ukraine to basically submit in advance. That is not going to happen. That's what they're trying to achieve. So they speak of the capture of Pokrovsk as a fact, as something that's already happened. That is not true. Why are they trying to get it so hard? It is a large transportation and supply hub. So it has infrastructure in place that would allow Russians to supply their troops using the existing establishment, the existing roads. And it would open the gates for them to grab the rest of that region, the rest of the Donetsk region. So that's why they're fighting so hard to get it. Now, what would help? Again, weapons support, long-range missiles, all of that. Additional supplies, additional ammo. So, that would all help, but we already know that Donald Trump took the tomahawks off the table. For all of his alleged frustration with Putin being uninterested in peace, he is not willing to give Ukraine any kind of upper hand when it comes to weapons, despite the fact that, as we talked yesterday, Russia is using Ukraine as a testing ground for its own mid-range missiles. Not only that, but Russia continues playing with nuclear fire by attacking the substations that connect Ukraine's nuclear power plants to the grid. Now remember, we just had the crisis at Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station. That was caused by Russia. But they keep doing this. And again, this should concern everybody because nuclear fallout does not respect borders. It doesn't care. If something blows at one of Ukraine's nuclear power stations, it is going to impact not just Ukraine, but also potentially Russia, depending which way the wind blows. Potentially Russia or Belarus or the Baltics or the rest of Eastern Europe. So, expressing grave concern and condemnation is not enough. Yes, sure, the UN nuclear watchdog, the International Atomic Energy Agency, keeps raising the red flag, but that is not going to stop anyone. In order to remove the danger, you have to stop Russia. And of course, there's also the basic fact that Russia continues targeting civilian infrastructure because, once again, third year in a row, they have an ambition to freeze people out. And they brag about it on their media. And yeah, once again, G7 energy ministers, condemned Russia, blah, blah, blah. But again, that is not going to do anything. And of course, the game of drones continues. So, Russia says that they downed 3 Ukrainian drones headed for Moscow. And, yeah, it's possible that they have. As I mentioned in the past, it's very likely that the drones that Ukraine is sending to that area are duds. Something cheap, something, with just enough of a small engine to get them to the area. Something very disposable. Because the point is not to hit anything. The point is not to cause damage. The point is to cause panic. The point is to disrupt air travel. The point is to cause frustration. So nobody actually gets physically hurt. But boy howdy, it is a huge nuisance. The point is to make Russian people angry at their own government. Now, on the other hand, there was also suspension of flights for almost 2 hours at Berlin's Brandenburg airport. So this was yesterday. Apparently, there were some unidentified drones sighted in the area. And as the result, the takeoffs and landings were suspended for 2 hours in the evening. Now, guys, start shooting the shit down. Start figuring out how to bring these things down. Because if you have the debris, you can dig through it and find out where they're coming from. There's always going to be something left, even if these are small drones. There's always going to be some parts, some bits, something. If you can track where it fell, you can take it apart and track where the parts are coming from. Ukrainians have learned how to do this very quickly. If you don't know how, ask them. They will show you. More to come.